Welcome to Athens Happens. I'm Ben Peters, a news editor at The New Political. Athens Happens is a weekly news podcast brought to you by TNP reporters dedicated to explaining the nuances of Athens and state politics. You can find new episodes every Friday at thenewpolitical.com, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, or wherever else podcasts can be downloaded. This week, we're going to discuss the decline in parking violation citations issued by the Athens City Police Department and a recent rally where Ohio University students and faculty gathered to protest impending faculty cuts in the face of a university-wide budget crisis. Managing editor Cole Behrens joins me to discuss parking violations in the city of Athens, which generally saw a decline from 2017 to 2018, according to the Athens Police Department's annual report. How are you, Cole?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm excellent. So tell me about these documents that you perused.
Yeah, so I gave these parking statistics pretty good look. I've been looking at them on and off for some time. And I just, I kind of pulled out some data that I thought was relevant, and I put it in this infographic that's on the website. And when I found some like interesting trends and some interesting, variances or anomalies in the data.
Okay. So how much of a decline in parking violations were there year over year?
Yeah, what the good news is that the police report actually has like quite a deep statistical base. It goes all the way back to like 2004 or something. So I had a lot of numbers to pull from in terms of, overall statistics. And you can see, if you visualize the data, that it's like a pretty even ebb and flow between the years. But they peaked in 2016 when they had $993,671.11 in revenue, which is close to $1 million.
Yeah.
And then that declined to about, my math's no good, but like $70,000 from $923,503.72. So, and then you actually, like, if you go back to like 2009, they actually had a similar amount to the first set of data from 2016, and then in the following years it declined again. So what I understand is that it's about the officers enforcing the parking, obviously, and they had an officer retire this year in early 2018, which led to a vacancy in his position, or his or her position. But that caused a general decline in tickets enforced.
I see. So this is, parking tickets. So the people who go around looking at your meter to make sure that the time is, that you've paid for a meter essentially.
Yes.
And to make sure that you're not parking in restricted zones, things like that.
Yeah. So there's a 70.5% of all citations were issued because of an expired meter, and that is obviously like 13,000 about, to give or take, and that's a majority of the money generated. But other violations are, parked on a sidewalk, or blocking a driveway with your parking, or parking where there's like yellow paint. And then there's some other ones that are kind of less routine enforcement. There's a 24-hour, there's a 72-hour parking limits. Those are often enforced. Well, the 24-hour parking limit was not enforced in 2018, which according to the police report, at least. Do
you have any indication as to why that is?
No. I'm still waiting for the people at the parking enforcement office to get back to me. But the data would suggest that they went from 2,200 violation or citations issued in 2017 to 2 citations issued in 2018. So
presumably now that they're issuing less citations, they're bringing in less revenue from this. Is that correct?
Well, the thing is that there was another citation called securing vehicle. Which I'm not clear on what securing vehicle constitutes, because I'm still waiting to hear back for confirmation.
Yeah.
But that went from like 1 or 2 of those citations being issued a year to, in 2018, they generated 1,800 citations from that violation, which it almost offsets the loss from the 24-hour parking violation.
So what you're saying is that they are now enforcing things or rules that they previously weren't enforcing?
At least in that instance, it appears that way because it goes from 0 or 1 or 2 being issued, which are a lot of the data for the citations is like 1 or 2 or 3. The real money makers or citation generators come from expired meters. Formerly the 24-hour parking, that was a large chunk. And then, just here or there, like parked on the sidewalk, blocking driveway, parking yellow paint area. Mm-hmm. Those are the other, significant generators of tickets.
So what does the city use the money that they generate from citations for?
The money goes into the city general fund, which means it can be used for, any number of purposes that the city deems fit, mm-hmm. whatever it could be. It could be roads or sidewalks or replacing water line, whatever the city needs to use the money for, because it's in the general fund.
I understand they also use the general fund to pay for employee salaries.
Yeah. The general fund is, as it suggests, like the city's coffers.
Yeah. So they reach into it whenever they need it.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to add about these parking data?
Yeah, I mean, if we just want to go over how it works, sure. There's 4 of them. Formerly there was another one who retired. But there are 4 full-time parking enforcement officers. One does 24-hour parking enforcement. I would assume it would be on some sort of rotating system, not that there's one person who's up for 24/7.
Right.
But there's a full-time parking enforcement officer, and then there are 3, shift, which goes from 6 to 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Enforcement times, so that of course that's the time they enforce, which is that was passed recently through city council, which that gained a lot of controversy around that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they enforce the uptown area, Union Street, and then anywhere else there's meters, and then they do go through the neighborhoods to look for on street residential violations.
Sure.
Parking in front of yellow paint.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Cole. We really appreciate you.
Yep. Glad to be on again.
We'll be right back to talk about the protest that happened before Thanksgiving break.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maggie Prosser, editor-in-chief here at The New Political. Each and every day, I work alongside reporters, editors, producers, and managers who put their heart and soul into the journalism we produce. Here at TNP, we have the honor to tell the stories of the residents of this small town we call home. We're looking for local businesses and other ventures to help us continue funding for our independent journalism, including the podcast you're listening to right now. TNP would love to advertise for you through our website, our biannual magazine, or right here on Athens Happens. If interested, please send an inquiry email to execedit@thenewpolitical.com for more details. We hope working together can support both your initiative and fuel TNP's strong, reliable, and essential journalism here in Athens.
I'm joined now by digital editor Sarah Donaldson and staff writer Abby Neff to discuss a recent rally where protesters spoke out against impending faculty cuts amid a university-wide budget crisis. How are you both?
I'm doing all right, Ben. Finals are rapidly approaching, so that's never the best thing in the world. But other than that, I'm doing all right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing great, actually. That Thanksgiving break really saved my life.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No weather comments?
I don't know.
The skyline is simply gorgeous.
I think that I like today that I could walk outside without a coat. That made me happy.
Skirt.
Yeah.
My legs are showing in this weather.
So you both attended this rally that happened before Thanksgiving break.
Yes.
So this was a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get to talk about it on the podcast before break, so we figured it would be a good time because this is still newsworthy.
Mm-hmm.
So what sparked this protest?
Well, there's been a lot of talk on campus in the past couple of weeks about this, what some are calling a budget crisis.
Mm-hmm.
This has been something that's kind of been on the radar for a couple of years among professors and people who pay close attention to it, but I think it's kind of caught a wider audience of attention, at least in the student body recently. So Alex Armstrong, he's a student here. He was reading the white pages from a teachers forum, with all of this information about the budget that was recently held, and it kind of inspired him to make these flyers. I guess it would have been about 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And these flyers were it said like 10 fun facts about Ohio University. And, it started like, it was actually like a list of fun facts, but as you read on, they were kind of these statistics about the budget crisis, and they had this kind of sarcastic tone in them. And they caught, they kind of caught some attention on Twitter. They were distributed in like most of all, if not all of the academic buildings. So these flyers were kind of all over campus. Yeah. So Abby actually talked to Alex, and he kind of told her that was what kind of led to the protest, because he saw that these flyers were being distributed. They were getting a lot of people were giving them a lot of attention, both online and just on campus in general. Yeah. And that's what kind of led to the protest, because he saw that, a lot of other people are really fired up about the budget crisis too. Yeah,
it's worth noting that they also were sending emails to all of the news organizations around town.
But the interesting thing is that Alex and Isaac are not associated with that Forbidden Flyers organization, allegedly. That's what they told me, because when I interviewed them the Saturday before the rally, they were like, what is that? And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting.
I didn't know that. So there's a shadow group sending emails to news organizations with
yeah, because I got kind of like almost like a chain email about the rally, but it wasn't directly from Alex or anyone. It was from some like random person that was it wasn't someone that was random. It was someone I had class with, but she wasn't someone I was like super close with. She kind of just like passed it along. It was almost like a chain email that she passed along to me too. So it was like kind of going around, not just to news orgs, but like also just like they were sending out like chain emails to students about this protest too.
Okay. So where did the protest take place?
So the protest took place actually right in front of, like, on College Green at the Soldiers and Sailors Civil War Monument. They actually put they chalked in a lot of things on the monument, and they had the soldiers like holding signs taped to their hands on the monument.
So what were they gathering about? What were they protesting specifically, other than the budget crisis generally? What were they demanding?
They were demanding essentially that the university protect faculty from being fired. That was one of the main things that was talked about, like Alex Armstrong, Isaac Stern, and Sam Debatine, which is the son of Bernard Debatine, who is the HTC director of the journalism studies. They basically just said, we care a lot more about our faculty than our administration, because the faculty, in their opinion, does more for the students than the administration does, at least on paper. So that's what they were protesting. But yeah, that's besides the budget and besides like cutting certain programs. That was the main reason.
And part of the protest, so they kind of had like Alex spoke, Isaac spoke, and then they had like two professors speak. They had so Bernard Debatine spoke. So
and who's Bernard Debatine?
He's the HCT director of journalism studies, and he's also a journalism professor, just like in the Scripps J School. But he gave a speech. Howard Wessler, he's an associate professor of sociology at OU. He also spoke. And then there was an alumnus that came and spoke, and he's like a union organizer for faculty at Rutgers, with the American Association of University Professors and the American Federation of Teachers. And he just like happened to be in Athens the day of the protest. So he was also kind of like rallying there and talking about like what they've done at Rutgers to save faculty, because I mean, it's kind of a larger trend that we're seeing, because I know Eric Bohl, one of our reporters, is doing a lot of research on like enrollment and budgets at universities, and in general enrollment is down at a lot of universities, but that like all factors into the budget. So it's not just OU necessarily that is having an issue like this. It's higher education in general, but those were just kind of some of the figures that were there. But I also kind of noticed that like after these speeches happened, Alex kind of turned it to the floor, and at one point they were kind of going through, saying like, if you in the crowd has something you're like mad about, like speak up about it, talk about it. And there were people kind of yelling out, I'm mad that athletics gets this much, but my professor in this department's getting cut. So like it was kind of like a crowdsourced thing too. After these people spoke, it kind of turned into something where it was like, if you're mad about the budget, what part about our budget, what part of it are you mad about? And a lot of people had a lot of different things to say.
Yeah. Going off of the enrollment part that Jacob Chafin, who was the alumnus that spoke, he mentioned responsibility-centered management, which was basically the old way of like the budget. It was the old budget plan President Nellis sent out an email that Monday, actually, before the rally, talking about just like he was just talking about the misinformation that was being spread in his words, and that, like, in fact, OU is not in a fiscal crisis. We're just struggling right now. One thing he mentioned was the RCM plan, which basically assumed enrollment growth. Like, it relied on enrollment growth in order to have a stronger budget and like a larger budget, but in fact enrollment has been decreasing since 2015. So he even mentioned that that was a failed system and that we're trying to resolve that.
So a lot of this protest just sounds like a bunch of people kind of standing in a circle around this monument yelling
Pretty much
like disparate grievances that
that was about half of it. And then someone in the crowd was like, let's march to...
It was Alex.
Oh, Alex was? Okay. I was going to say, because I was running around taking photos, so I was doing less like genuine reporting on every single thing that was happening because I was trying to get some photos. But at one point, probably about halfway through the protest, the majority of the group and a pretty large crowd had gathered, because it kind of felt like at points like people were walking past College Green and they were like, what's going on? So they were like chilling there, like watching what was going on too. But about halfway through, they marched over to Cutler Hall. And that's when it got a little more, I don't want to say interesting, but that's when it kind of, they were trying to get administrators to come out.
It was a little more intense.
Yeah, it was definitely a little more intense. And it was funny because there were kind of protesters from it seemed like there were students, but there were also maybe like graduate students or maybe even like residents of Athens also there. But like some people, it almost felt like they like wanted to go in and like storm Cutler Hall. But
Cutler Hall is where Nellis's office is.
Yes, and that was a big thing. So maybe Abby, if you want to take this one.
So yeah, I was looking at my my interview notes from that Saturday that I had interviewed Isaac and Alex, and yes, like the crowd did move towards Cutler Hall where President Nellis's office is, and I remembered something that Isaac had said, and he said that the idea of storming the president's office is really appealing in the short run, but action needs to be taken by writing to the Board of Trustees. So from my initial understanding was that I did not think that after the interview that the crowd was going to move towards Cutler, but they did.
And I don't know if that was necessarily so you said it was Alex who said, let's go to Cutler Hall.
I heard him, but it might have just been
but in the sense of like storming the building, like I say that like almost jokingly, but like there wasn't, you could tell that there was kind of a disagreement in the crowd. Like Alex and Isaac didn't, when they were at Cutler Hall, they weren't like, let's like go inside and like rally inside the building, but there were other people in the crowd that were like, heck yes, let's go in, let's kind of come at Nellis. And they were more like, Nellis, come out and talk to us. And Nellis obviously never came out. They kind of sent this like he's an administrator.
His name is Eric Burchard. He's the government
director of government relations.
Yeah,
he came out and he said he'd see if Nellis could President Nellis, I